Do you know Ready Kilowatt? All work, no play, long hours, low pay. Serving you day and night, Ready Kilowatt, servant of the century. Ready Kilowatt. Back before utilities were regulated, groups of utility companies who were very pro-capitalist, to make their early utility capitalism great, they created Ready Kilowatt as their spokesperson, or as their mascot, if you will. So anyone who was in a non-regulated utility company could use Ready as a marketing tool to make their overcharging of utilities more friendly and whatever. Ready Kilowatt existed from the 1920s until the 1990s. 1,000 different versions of Ready Kilowatt. A bunch of socialists and environmental groups started taking Ready Kilowatt and then modifying it into different ways to make it bad, and they were sued by the creator of Ready Kilowatt, who owned one of these regulatory bodies, and lost because they said that they were using it within fair use, so they weren't infringing on his copyright, and this is one of those. So I'm going to see if Donna will tattoo. This is Tom with Ack 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 TV. So the first story I'm going to tell is a story about me and my buddy going to St. Louis, and we got appointments. We're going to get tattooed. We show up. The person working the counter takes our information, tells us the tattooer's running a little bit behind. We're just hanging out waiting. He comes back up and says it's been a while. Comes back up and is hey man, he's on his way. He's just running really behind. Stuff happened. Really apologize. We end up sitting there probably an hour and a half. And the tattooer shows up. He's hey, had some stuff going on. I'll hook you up. It was my fault I'm late. So he'd been out of town working a convention, got back the night before. In the kitchen, he poured another drink and looked at the bedroom suite in his front yard. The mattress was stripped, and the candy-striped sheets lay beside 2 pillows on the chiffonier. If that's pronounced wrong, I'm white trash. I apologize. Except for that, things looked much the way they had in the bedroom. Nightstand and reading lamp on his side of the bed. Nightstand and reading lamp on her side. Walked into his apartment where he was at the time living with his girlfriend, and everything is gone, he says. He's trying to figure out where all of his stuff is, and that's why he was late to tattooing us. He did hook us up. It was a great time otherwise. My friend and I still kind of laugh about it when we talk about it. The next story, my buddy was living in Colorado at the time. Him and a friend are doing a cross-country trip, recording music and visiting other cities. He texts me and asks about a shop to get tattooed in St. Louis, so I recommend a couple shops. They're able to get into the shop, and they get tattooed. He's talking with me later after getting the tattoos, mentions that he left his hat there. So it's probably been 2-3 months since he got tattooed there. I have an appointment with same tattooer from the first story to get a different tattoo when I'm on a work trip. So I mentioned while I'm getting tattooed that my buddy had gotten tattooed there and what he got. And the tattooer who did his tattoo goes, "Oh wait, that's the guy who left his hat here," and gives me the hat that my buddy left. He had gotten tattooed there a few months prior. So anyway, my buddy was reunited with his hat after a couple different tattoos and going to get tattooed at the same shop. So my last true happened in St. Louis story. Going to a shop to get tattooed. It's January, February, winterish time. Thought my kid had school that day. Turns out they didn't, and I had a tattoo appointment in St. Louis. So call my in-laws, find some childcare for while I'm getting tattooed, pull up to the shop, and I'm sitting in front of the shop smoking a cigarette in my truck before I go inside just because it's cold outside. And I'm sitting there and just hear 6 shots just go bang, 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 bang. And I'm man, those are close. But they stopped. I finished my cigarette and get out of my truck, and I start walking into the shop. counter person's like, "Get inside now!" Rushes me inside. She was working the counter and had watched the shots as two people had gotten shot at the end of the shop in the parking lot across the little side street. I'm sitting there like waiting, and I go back to get tattooed. The police are there asking to look at security camera footage and all of that. We finish the tattoo. Tattooer finishes, and I go up front with him, and we're chatting, and they're like, "You know what? You deserve a free shirt." So I ended up getting a free shirt for my troubles. All right, thanks. And so as I'm driving back, turn around, and the bodies are like still under a tarp in the parking lot. Now that 7-Eleven has also been closed down, so like hopefully that doesn't happen again. Those are my St. Louis stories. So like everyone kind of thinks the Midwest is small. I mean, tattooing in general, and just the Midwest is everybody kind of knows everyone. Every time I go and get tattooed, everyone kind of mentions other people, and then being tattooed by a lot of the same people who've been tattooing forever is pretty awesome. And there's kind of an overlap between the shops and like where people go, you know, keeping it to the Midwest and the Midwest areas. On a completely random note that I should have talked about in the beginning, but we're just going to mention it now, I'm going to tell my story of being tattooed by Oliver Peck. So, Oliver Peck was coming to some motorcycle swap meet in Indiana. I don't even know what year. Oliver Peck posted that he was going to be in Gas City, Indiana, and was trying to book tattoos for the days he was going to be there. I was like, yeah, I'll reach out and see if I can get tattooed. Sent him a couple ideas, drove up to Gas City, which is like just over an hour from Indianapolis. So I pull up, and the swap meet's like everywhere. He's got a camper with a trailer on the back of it. Trailer's like set up like a tattoo shop, and go inside, and he's listening to Devo. He asked me what size shirt I wear, gives me a free like cheap Thrills shirt. Asked me what I want to do, and I was like, well, I want to get a rose on this arm, or like some playing cards with like the word lucky underneath it on this arm. And he's like looking at my tattoos and goes, "You want to do those cards?" I was like, yeah. He was like, Greg Christian did that piece. He was like, well, Greg did that piece, Greg Christian. He was like, Chad Keplinger did that piece. And he said Chad, and I was like, yeah. He was like, it's not very often I get to tattoo with like be on the same like limb as like my friends, or have a tattoo near my friends' tattoos. So it'd be awesome to like tattoo those cards. I'm like, yeah, man, like let's do it. Takes like 45 minutes. Still listening to Devo. We chat for a little bit, and he's like, Greg's probably gonna be here in an hour. And I'm like, man, I gotta get back to Indy, but it'd be great to see Greg again. I ended up getting tattooed by Greg a second time, like after that. Does these little playing cards that you see right here. We'll post a picture. You'll see a picture over there, but like, yeah, good little story. Talked about driving his mini bike into the city of Gas City to get some Subway. Gas City is a really small town here in Indiana, so not known for much. That's my story of getting tattooed by Oliver Peck at a motorcycle swap meet in a trailer in Gas City, Indiana. That's some Little League Diamonds. That's Indiana for you. Ink Master's back.